Continue with the superstructure, wood. Wood is the superstructure and conduit for nutrients of a tree. A tree trunk or branch can be thought of as a handful of drinking straws, hollow and structural causeways. The direction and visualness of the cellular direction is the grain. A longitudinal section of wood is known as straight grain, and a cut perpendicular to its end is called the end grain or cross section. Wood joints are very stable when glued long grain to perpendicular long grain. But any joint comprising an end-to-end grain cut is weak and will fail. The glue will be stronger than the actual wood itself. Potentiality of wood shows the constraints of those furniture makers, repairers, enhancers, and over-restorers have to work with. Wood technology controlled the operations in furniture shops of the 17th through 19th centuries. As a tree grows larger in diameter, first a clear layer called early wood and then a layer late wood forms as the year goes by. And this is in and every year happening. These combinations of layers are known as the annual rings. They can be seen in cross-section to determine a tree's age or an angled cut as arcs, and longitudinal sections of straight wood of different bands of color and density. The pattern or rings that the annual rings impart is called the grain. Grain is the characteristics of a wood structure, and figured is the quality of its beauty. Rays and lines that radiate out from the center of the tree, these are perpendicular, the annual rings. These are brought to the height of their beauty by the sawyer, and the quarter saws prevent ray-infested woods such as oaks, imparting a wonderful figured fleck. Softwoods, which are conifers, have resin canals, tiny piths, which the sap runs, visible also to the naked eye, not needing additional magnification. Every wood has its own distinctive cellular characteristics also, and distinctive appearance to the unaided eye. It is important you learn the visual structure of these woods in order to make a quick identification or starting point for placing an object at time and origin. Old growth forest of the same species will tend to have a much different grain structure, color, and pore diameter as compared to contemporary growth. The visual identification of wood aids in determining species and makes distinctions between repairs, enhancements, marriages, and remade objects. A more in-depth lecture is for another class and another time in this series. One of the better publications on the subject is termed Understanding Wood by Dr. Bruce Hoadley. When you're doubtful of a wood's identity, a professional laboratory can aid in this process. One just needs a small sample, a scraping from a scalpel. Always take from a hidden area, a pointed edge, or an inside corner. Place the sample into a plastic bag and label it. Samples can be sent to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Forest Department's laboratory, 1 Guilford, Pinchot, P-I-N-C-H-O-T, and Madison, Wisconsin, 53705. Hardwoods and softwoods play different roles in old cabinetry. Although furniture makers made some common, inexpensive furniture entirely out of softwood, they generally combined hardwood and softwoods in an object. They chose a hardwood as the primary wood, the wood that everyone sees, and the wood that was given a clear film finish. But for the back of the chest and the bottoms of its drawers, internal components, cabinet makers favored local softwoods. And these are a great identifying factor to the region. The wood that was not seen and consequently was not finished, the secondary wood, was usually soft unless a hardwood scrap was just lying around the shop, or a hardwood would better meet the structural demand on the object in question. Thus a chair maker might have used pine, softwood for the corner blocks to brace the seat, but chosen maple as a hardwood for the seat rails that were to be upholstered and had to have rows and rows of nails and tacks over the years. Woods that were soft, whether they are called softwood or from a so-called hardwood like poplar, nevertheless actually are soft, were cheap for the furniture maker to acquire and easiest for him to work. Softwoods and hardwoods wear quite differently. The softwood is less dense and more prone to wear away than the hardwood. When used as a secondary wood and left unfinished, the softwood can be seen especially vulnerable to wear, flaking, breaking of corners, fuzzing, etc. Listen to furniture when you move any of its parts. The sound of rubbing tells you that wear is occurring. Whenever you see signs of normal wear, bottoms of a drawer, listen to find the wood is still being worn. If it is not, look for repairs or replacements. Both are common in the places where the wood makes bearing contact with other wood surfaces. Check the corresponding points of contact, i.e., for example, the drawer sides often rub on the drawer divider as the drawer is pulled out or pushed in, depending on how much weight is consumed in this drawer over the period of its lifetime. A worn spot in the top of the drawer divider should line up with the worn bottom of the drawer side. Their points of wear should correspond. The extent of wear may not, of course. If the depth of wear is not reciprocal, consider the woods. Finished hardwoods are likely to rub raw at a point of contact, while unfinished softwood wears away. While pine drawer sides will wear down to more than a 1/4 inch while running over a maple divider that is merely rubbed smooth or shiny. Check points of contact for the possibility of repair. Drawer sides are often pierced or pieced together or pieced out. Badly worn drawer dividers, too, may have been neatly, almost invisibly placed. Since wood is easily glued with a grain, it is an excellent material for letting in small replacement pieces. Some go totally undetected or unnoticed if it's a good cabinet maker. Pierced repairs, whether for appearance sake or enable the furniture to function better, may be acceptable or even desirable to the collector, but they indicate hard and extensive use in the past. Other instances of heavy use and laborious restoration should be looked elsewhere in the furniture if you find them on the internal. Evidence of consistent wear to the wood will testify to honest repair. Inconsistent wear will finger a remade object or a case of old parts / new object. Be aware of a pierced or pieced together repair on a hardwood divider that is not accompanied by a repair on the corresponding softwood drawer side. The drawer may not be new to its location. The drawer side may be new to the drawer, or the whole drawer may simply be new itself. Aging wood. Faking aging wood. Wood changes as it ages, presenting clear evidence of the passage of time. In addition, normal household use wears furniture, wood supplying the antique or proof of age. As you examine furniture more closely, you will begin to differentiate between the wear of normal use and the intentional marring or marring of fakers. The woods in art and furniture changes whether the furniture is used or not. Unfinished wood darkens with age, oxidation. Darkened secondary woods are hallmarks of time and can read clearly as a label applied to a piece of furniture. Learn how to recognize the color of new wood, and then you'll understand how wood ages. Learn how to recognize the color of new wood, and its appearance could be deceptive as that of a stain also. New wood is very light in color. The many facets of the empty cells on the wood surface reflect the light, making raw wood bright to the eye. Finished wood is pale because the clear wood fills the pores. The clear finish fills the pores. The empty pores of unfinished wood are exposed to air and pollutants. It travels into them and they become dark over time, oxidation and trapping of these contaminants. Unless one hermetically seals furniture, secondary wood color changes to the darker, creating those mellowed hues that collectors look for as they examine backs, bottoms, and insides of furniture. The shades of aging vary with the species of wood and its duration of light exposure over its time period, heating and cooling, environmental pollutants, and other human tactical contact. Different degrees of darkening can be found. If a chest is against the wall for many years, its back will not darken as much as its lower drawer bottoms. The small interior desk drawers behind the prospect door, which is virtually never open, will darken very little. And the underside of the bottom of a drawer, if the chest itself has no bottom, will darken considerably more due to much more exposure to airflow. Temperature changes, and in this case, dust pollutants. Always ask yourself where the air exposure is and look for those dark surfaces. If not, you better ask yourself questions. Finished surfaces, those whose wood pores are filled with a clear finish, immediately become somewhat darker than raw wood itself, and then, sneaked from the air, do not age in the same way exposed wood does. With time and exposure to sunlight, a finished rich mahogany can fade to gold, and in a century, finished black walnut, really a dark brown color, in spite of its name, becomes a color of light honey. Because a sealant prevents the darkening of aging wood, the inadvertent presence of a sealant on an unfinished surface, a common occurrence, can offer proof of age. A lost drop of varnish that fell on an otherwise unfinished backboard would seal the wood, preventing the usual darkening. Similarly, glue that oozed from a joint could seal the adjacent unfinished wood, keeping it from darkening. If the unfinished dripped or oozed in original construction, it would do so and not unto the fresh wood, and what you would see now beneath the dry glue or finished area would be a far paler than the unglued or unfinished surface beside it. So these are great indicators. Such two-tone evidence is a welcome sight. If, on the other hand, the wood beneath the drip or the glue is dark, and the finishing or gluing was done on an already old object, when wood darkens, it does so only on the surface. The wood beneath remains protected from the air and of a much lighter note. Newly exposed wood, freshly sawn, cut, or braided, is light, almost bright, with much of the look of the timber from the mill originally. Fakers, restorers, repairers, and/or improvers may use old wood, but they must cut it here and there to size, introducing new surfaces of fresh wood. This creates problems for them. To mask the bright new wood, fakers use stains or dyes, sometimes washes or coffee or teas. Any staining of an unfinished surface is a sign of trouble. Many times the stain a faker used to cover his tracks will stand out more today after time than it once blended in originally. Stained and natural surfaces age quite differently. Under highlight, wattage is stained and naturally aged wood will visualize differently. The stained surface appears duller and more opaque.